So we can talk about our taking in water and our getting rid of water, and we can talk about the different ways that we do that. So water intake specifically deals with like drinking beverages that have water in them. Some of our food also has water in it, so we could eat foods. And then we actually have some ability to break down glucose, for example. And as we break down glucose, we actually produce water as metabolism. So we can talk about this as metabolism. So interestingly, there are some organisms that rely upon food and metabolism almost entirely. So if you think about in the desert where there's very little to actually drink, right? If you're a lizard or if you're like specifically a kangaroo rat, you would get most of your water from actually eating food, like maybe eating seeds rather than actually drinking water as a source. So drinking beverages is about 60% of your water intake. And then we have foods is about 30%, and then the metabolism for humans is about 10%. So we can compare that to the output. And so most of our water is lost in our urine. And then we have evaporation. And this is a big problem across the skin and the lungs, so the respiratory membrane. So with urine, we are trying to dilute our metabolic wastes, and the metabolic waste being urea. And so we're going to produce urine and water very dilute. If we have a lot of water that we're taking in, we can produce very dilute urine. So it's not super concentrated. Evaporation across the skin, that's evaporative cooling. So that would be sweating. And then weirdly, our respiratory membrane, even though it is deep inside our bodies, has to be moist in order for gas exchange to take place. So we actually exhale a lot of water. And so you know this, for example, if you're sitting in a car on a cool day, you fog up the windows, and that is water loss across your respiratory surface in the lungs. So you're actually losing water to your environment. Then the last one is, or we have actually sweat. So that would include sweat. This is including sweating. And then we have feces. Now you can have diarrhea, which means that you're not reabsorbing enough water in your large intestine. And that is actually a very, very good way to become dehydrated very quickly. So that's why they're so concerned when, like, for example, children or even elderly people have diarrhea, because they could become dehydrated and not even know it, because they might not even sense being thirsty, or if you're a baby, you might not have control over that. And so it's important for people to realize that diarrhea can be dehydrating. Okay, so if we look at the percentage, this is about 60% is lost in the urine. And then we have in the feces, that's 4%. And so what is left over would be 28 plus 8. So that'd be 36%. 36%, 4% and 60%. Okay. So if we take a look at what this looks like from your textbook, these are the percentages. So the average output of urine per day would be 1,500. The average intake per day of beverages would be 1,500. But then we also get some water from food and from metabolism. So this just breaks down water intake and outtake.